Okay, picture this. 2,500 years ago, Siddhartha Gautama, sitting under the Bodhi tree. He reaches these incredibly deep states of consciousness.
Absolutely. The ancient stories talk about these amazing insights, this clarity washing over him.
But the ultimate state, nirvana, it always feels a little shrouded, doesn't it?
Right.
Like we don't get the full picture.
That's a great way to put it. The early texts give us these hints, these sort of careful descriptions. It's almost like the experience itself was just beyond language. Or maybe he wanted us to figure it out directly.
Which is where things get really interesting today.
Yeah.
Because now we have neuroscience, we have EEG, and researchers are studying these, long-term meditators.
People with thousands of hours of practice.
Exactly, and they're finding these high-frequency brainwaves, gamma waves.
And these gamma waves spike dramatically during deep meditation. It's totally different from our normal mental buzz.
It makes you wonder, could this be what Buddha experienced?
It's a fascinating possibility, because when you look at the stages of meditation Buddha described, like in the Anapanasati Sutta, they seem to map onto some of these neurological findings surprisingly well.
So he might have charted this path to these gamma states, but maybe kept the really advanced stuff quieter. Shared it only with a few.
That's the theory we're digging into.
Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive. We're exploring this convergence point, ancient wisdom, modern science, focusing on this idea of gamma meditation, maybe Buddha's hidden technique, and what it tells us about reality itself.
We'll be drawing on everything from the classic Pali texts, Tibetan tantras, the Dzogchen and Mahamudra traditions.
And then bringing in the modern research, Wisconsin, Stanford, Kyoto University study.
Exactly. It's a bridge across millennia, really, connecting contemplative insights with scientific rigor.
And it's not just academic. There could be real practical takeaways here.
Absolutely. Understanding this could genuinely enrich our lives.
All right, let's start with the basics. Gamma waves. We know the other brain waves, delta for sleep, theta, alpha, beta, but gamma was kind of the latecomer to the party, wasn't it? Why was it overlooked for so long?
Yeah, mainly because of the technology. Early EEG machines just weren't sensitive enough, or perhaps not interpreted correctly, to reliably pick up these really fast oscillations. We're talking 30 to 100 cycles per second, sometimes even higher. It took until maybe the 90s for the tech to catch up.
Okay, so once the tools improved, what did scientists like Professor Richard Davidson find?
Davidson's work at Wisconsin was really groundbreaking. He talks about gamma representing the brain's most complex, coordinated activity. He calls them integration moments. It's when different neural networks, often working separately,
Suddenly click together.
Precisely. They start firing in perfect synchrony. It creates this unified, holistic experience in our awareness.
Like an orchestra hitting a perfect chord.
That's a great analogy. And his studies on those experienced Tibetan monks really highlighted this. These were people with 10,000, 20,000, even more hours of meditation.
And their gamma activity.
Off the charts. Significantly higher than control groups and incredibly coherent. Not just noise, but this beautifully synchronized pattern across large areas of the brain.
And they could generate this state voluntarily.
Yes. They could enter these high gamma states through their meditation practice. It was remarkable evidence.
Wow. It just makes you think about Buddha under that tree again. What was his brain doing? You mentioned his 16-stage meditation system, the Anapanasati Sutta, especially those final 4 stages, the Dhammanupassana. You said they were cryptic.
Yeah, they stand out. The earlier stages are described quite practically, focusing on the breath, body sensations, but then the descriptions for these last 4 become very brief, almost poetic. They use terms for advanced states called jhanas.
Jhanas, like levels of absorption.
Exactly, progressive states of deep meditative focus. And the highest ones, the 7th and 8th, they get translated as things like neither perception nor non-perception and cessation of perception and feeling.
Cessation of perception and feeling. That sounds intense. Maybe even a bit scary.
It does sound profound, doesn't it? And maybe that's why the details weren't widely broadcast. It's not easily grasped intellectually.
Did other traditions elaborate more?
Interestingly, yes. If you look at Tibetan Buddhism, especially the Dzogchen and Mahamudra teachings, these are traditions known for their really detailed maps of consciousness. They talk about experiences of clear light, a kind of crystal clear luminosity.
A fundamental awareness.
Something like that, a direct perception of reality's nature. And it seems to align with those later jhanas.
So different descriptions may be pointing to the same core experience.
That's what's so compelling, and historical accounts do suggest Buddha often saved the deepest teachings for his inner circle.
Makes sense if it's hard to explain or easy to misunderstand. I think Paok Sayadaw, the Burmese master, warned about that.
Yes, he stressed that these aren't just ideas, they're powerful states. You need proper preparation, guidance. Trying to force them or misunderstanding them could be, well, problematic. Risky, even.
It's serious practice, not just a thought experiment.
Definitely. It's transformative, so it needs care.
And there was that quote from the Visuddhimagga about the mind dissolving duality. How does that fit?
Ah, that's a key piece. It draws on earlier teachings attributed to Buddha, saying the cultivated mind can reach a state where duality collapses. The separation between you, the observer, and what you're observing, it dissolves.
Right.
And that resonates incredibly strongly with what neuroscience sees in the gamma state, that increased synchrony, the breakdown of separate processing modules. It points to that feeling of interconnectedness.
Okay, so we've got this strong potential link. Ancient meditative states, modern gamma waves. Let's get deeper into the brain science. What is happening neurologically during gamma?
Okay, 3 key things stand out from neuroimaging. First, that neural synchronicity we mentioned. Neurons across different regions start oscillating together, creating these powerful, coherent fields.
The orchestra playing in unison.
Exactly. Second, there's a huge boost in information integration. Different brain areas communicate much faster, more efficiently. The usual barriers seem to drop, allowing for more holistic processing.
Which could lead to those big aha moments, seeing the connections.
Absolutely.
Great.
And third, and this is fascinating, there's a transformation of the default mode network, DMN.
The DMN, that's our usual mind-wandering, self-referential thinking network, right? Me, myself, and I.
That's the one. Active when we're not focused on a task, often rehashing the past, planning the future, the inner chatter.
So what happens to it in gamma states?
It changes qualitatively. Dr. Andrew Newberg's research at Stanford is relevant here. He's observed shifts in activity in key DMN hubs like the posterior cingulate cortex and medial prefrontal cortex.
The me centers.
Sort of. And activity changes there correlate with a diminished sense of a separate self, less defined boundaries.
And more connectedness.
Exactly. A feeling of unity often arises while awareness remains sharp. It's like the ego's narrative just softens or dissolves temporarily.
That's free.
Many report it that way. And there's more research from Kyoto University looked at neurotransmitters. They found patterns involving serotonin, but different from, say, psychedelics, plus lots of endorphins contributing to well-being, and even altered melatonin, potentially linking to changes in time perception.
Wow, it's a whole different neurochemical environment.
It's a fundamentally different mode of brain function, it seems.
Okay, back to Buddha. No EEGs back then, obviously.
Yeah.
But you're saying his descriptions, just from deep introspection, were remarkably accurate.
It's quite astonishing, really. It shows the power of highly trained introspection. In texts like the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, he describes these states as knowing and seeing things as they truly are, direct perception. He even used phrases like perfectly pure luminosity, consciousness becoming bright, pure, cloudless.
That sounds like the clear light from the Tibetan texts.
The resonance is striking, isn't it? That clarity aligns with the idea of enhanced information integration, less mental noise that we see neurologically.
The perils just keep piling up.
And think about his concept of one-pointedness of mind, or ekagata. In the Padsamhidamagga, it's described as the perfect integration of sensory data.
So not just narrow focus, but bringing everything together.
Precisely. Synthesizing all sensory input into a unified whole. That maps beautifully onto the information integration function of gamma waves.
Like seeing the whole puzzle, not just the pieces.
You got it. And then there's the advanced state of samadhi, characterized by non-discriminating wisdom. This way of knowing transcends our usual binary, this or that thinking.
And neuroscience shows.
Reduced activity in the very brain networks tied to that kind of dualistic thinking during high gamma states. It's as if the brain shifts from categorizing to unifying.
It's almost uncanny how well they line up across 2,500 years.
It really makes you appreciate the depth of insight possible through purely contemplative methods.
So gamma isn't just an electrical pattern, it's a whole different reality tunnel, a different way of experiencing. What does that feel like?
Drawing from countless reports from experienced meditators, some core characteristics consistently emerge. First, a profound sense of unity. The feeling of being separate just dissolves. You experience interconnectedness directly.
The opposite of our usual fragmented self.
Totally. Second, a major transformation of time perception. linear time fades. It might feel like an eternal now, or time stretching, compressing, or just becoming irrelevant.
Liberating, I imagine.
Very much so, often. Third, people often report seeing geometric visual forms, spontaneous, intricate patterns behind closed eyes.
Really? Like fractal patterns?
Sometimes, yes. Beautiful, complex geometry. Fourth, a marked enhancement of intuition. You grasp complex things holistically, instantly, without step-by-step logic.
Like a supercharged aha moment.
Kind of, yeah, but deeper. Fifth, effortless cognition. Thinking becomes fluid, spontaneous, not effortful.
Nice.
Sixth, profound insights. Sudden, deep understandings about existence, reality, the self.
Big picture stuff.
Exactly. And finally, seventh, often an overwhelming feeling of universal compassion. A deep empathy and connection with all beings.
That's quite a list. It sounds less like just feeling good and more like a fundamental perception shift.
It is. Dr. Janet Smith from the California Institute of Consciousness Studies uses a great analogy. She says gamma isn't just more intense alpha or beta, it's a qualitative shift, like water turning into steam. The substance changes its nature.
Water to steam. I like that. And how does this connect back to nirvana?
The parallels are compelling. Buddha described nirvana as the cessation of suffering, extinction of craving, relinquishment of attachment.
Letting go.
Yes, and those descriptions resonate strongly with reports from gamma states. The dissolution of the sense of self, the experience of unity, letting go of the ego's grip seems central to both.
So nirvana might not be just philosophy, but an actual, achievable neurological state.
It certainly points in that direction.
Okay, if Buddha and others accessed these states, they must have had methods. You suggested these might have been simplified or partly lost.
It seems likely. But by comparing techniques across traditions, we can piece together probable core elements.
What are they?
First, breath control patterns. Things like 9-cycle breathing in Tibetan traditions or specific counting methods. Rhythmic breathing is key, and modern research confirms it influences gamma.
Amazing how breath connects to brainwaves.
It really is. Second, attention positioning. Focusing on specific body spots, third eye, heart center, lower abdomen, Dantian. Neuroimaging suggests these focus points linked to gamma-generating circuits.
So it's not just symbolic focus.
Potentially not. Third, visualization practices, especially complex ones like deity visualizations in Tantra. These strongly activate visual and parietal areas, which are key for gamma.
Engaging the visual system.
Right. Fourth, sound resonance, mantras, chants like Om Mani Padme Hum. Some analyses suggest the sound frequencies themselves might entrain brain activity through bone conduction.
The vibration itself.
That's the idea being explored. And finally, a sequential progression. All traditions emphasize step-by-step training. You build the foundation. Neuroscience agrees you need to gradually reshape neural networks for stability.
It sounds incredibly sophisticated, a real science of the mind. And you mentioned similarities to modern tech.
Yes, it's quite striking. Principles in these ancient methods echo things like neurofeedback, transcranial magnetic stimulation, TMS, even sonic or light stimulation used today to modulate brainwaves.
Wow. They intuitively understood principles we're now rediscovering technologically.
It seems that way. Which brings us back to why Buddha might have been cautious. Rabindra Mavata, the Nepalese scholar, suggested Buddha restricted the advanced stuff deliberately.
Right. Why the secrecy?
What were the potential dangers? Several possibilities, supported by both old texts and new research. One is the destabilization risk. Buddha warned against unprepared practice. Modern studies, like some from UC, show intensive meditation, especially advanced techniques without guidance, can sometimes trigger adverse effects.
Like
Perceptual overload, identity confusion, maybe activating latent psychological issues. These states are powerful, not necessarily always blissful, especially if entered abruptly or without a stable base.
It's a crucial caveat. Power needs careful handling.
Exactly. Second, cultural readiness. How do you explain cessation of perception to people without the framework? It could easily be misunderstood or dismissed.
Like explaining calculus to someone who hasn't learned basic algebra. Creates confusion.
Precisely. And third, the potential for misuse. Gamma states seem linked to enhanced abilities, intuition, cognition, maybe even influence. Without a strong ethical foundation, these enhanced capacities could be dangerous. Buddha was likely very aware of this.
power without wisdom is risky.
Indeed. There's a parable in the Samyutta Nikaya about finding honey but lacking the right tools, you could get badly stung. Same idea with these states. Modern neuroscientists like Matthew Richards also urge caution, saying we're just beginning to grasp the full effects, and diving into advanced stuff unsupervised is unwise.
So the caution wasn't about hiding truth, but ensuring safe passage. Respect for the power involved.
That seems to be the most plausible interpretation.
Okay, given all that, can we outline a safe, structured approach to this today? Something integrating ancient wisdom and modern science.
Yes, I think we can synthesize a framework. Maybe 4 progressive phases. Phase 1, foundation preparation. This is crucial. Build stable attention with basic mindfulness, breath focus, etc. Physical prep, maybe yoga. Mindful movement for nervous system regulation. Diet matters for brain health. And just cultivating daily awareness.
Like building the launchpad. How long?
Could be, say, 1 to 3 months of consistent practice, establishing stability.
Okay, phase 1, foundation. What's next?
Phase 2, neural circuit activation. This might take 3 to 6 months. Introduce rhythmic breathing to harmonize heart rate variability and entrain brainwaves. Maybe use sound resonance-guided meditations with 40 Hz tones, for instance. Focus attention on energy centers. Body scanning for heightened sensory awareness.
Gently waking up the relevant circuits. Tuning the instrument.
You got it. Phase 3, gamma state training. This comes later, maybe after 6 to 12 months minimum of solid practice in phases 1 and 2. Here, you shift towards open awareness meditation, non-dual practices exploring subject-object boundaries, maybe clear light visualizations, energy work always with qualified guidance.
This is where the deeper transformation happens.
Potentially, yes. And crucially, phase 4. Integration and application. This isn't an endpoint, it's ongoing, lifelong. It's about bringing the qualities experienced clarity, connection, compassion into daily life, expressing insights creatively, refining ethics naturally, using it to serve others, grounding the insights.
So it's not just about hitting a peak state, but weaving those qualities into the fabric of your life.
Exactly. Richard Davidson emphasizes this too. It's a developmental journey. Integration is key, more so than fleeting peak experiences.
That's a really helpful, grounded framework. Gradual, integrated, ethical. Now, thinking bigger picture, what are the potential applications of this gamma consciousness beyond personal growth for society?
The potential is vast. In health and psychotherapy, there's promise for trauma healing, reframing memories within a sense of safety and connection, managing depression by upregulating positive pathways, and general cognitive enhancement, memory, attention, problem solving.
Significant potential for well-being. What about creativity?
Yes, creativity and innovation. Some forward-thinking companies are exploring this for breakthrough thinking. Artists, writers often report enhanced flow and inspiration, and the holistic perspective helps with systems thinking, seeing the bigger picture to solve complex problems.
So better solutions for complex challenges.
That's the hope. And then interpersonal and social applications. Cultivating empathy for conflict resolution, enhancing learning and creativity in education, developing more wise, compassionate, systemically aware leadership.
It feels like tapping into this could create positive ripples everywhere.
It really could. Maria Cantor's research on integrative cognition is relevant here. People accessing these states often blend sharp analysis with deep intuition. That integrated knowing is vital for navigating today's complex world.
This has been incredibly fascinating. We're really just starting to map this intersection of inner science and outer science. And if you listening are finding this exploration as compelling as we do, definitely consider subscribing to the channel. We dive deep into these kinds of topics regularly, exploring consciousness, ancient wisdom, modern science. Join the community.
Yeah, it's quite a journey we've been on today. Seeing how modern neuroscience, with its discovery of gamma waves, is starting to validate insights the Buddha articulated 2,500 years ago through pure introspection.
Yeah.
It's remarkable. These gamma waves really do seem like a neurological marker for a way of being that moves beyond our usual separate dualistic view, opening up an experience of deep interconnectedness.
Right, and Buddha's genius wasn't just finding these states, but also his caution. His understanding that you need preparation, ethics, guidance to navigate them safely. It shows incredible wisdom about the human mind.
We really are at a unique time, aren't we? Where these ancient contemplative maps from the East are meeting the rigorous methods of Western science. It gives us this unprecedented chance to explore consciousness more fully, and it feels important, not just interesting. Understanding our shared reality better could be crucial for tackling the divisions and challenges we face globally.
Absolutely. So we really encourage everyone listening, Reflect on this, chew on these ideas, maybe explore further yourself with curiosity, but also discernment. Remember Buddha's advice. Test things for yourself through experience. Don't just take anyone's word for it. Maybe start with some basic mindfulness, see how it feels.
Which leaves us with a final thought to ponder. Maybe the greatest frontier isn't outer space, but inner space, the universe of consciousness within each of us. As ancient wisdom hinted and modern science is now confirming, perhaps that's where the most profound discoveries truly lie.